Captain Mac here, and welcome back to our series Around the World in the Constellation, or as it's more affectionately referred to, the Connie. A series where we're going to take this old and beautiful aircraft on an old world schedule from Trans World Airlines all the way around the globe, starting in Chicago, which was our last flight, and ending, you guessed it, in Chicago, because it wouldn't be all the way around the world unless we ended where we started, right? Now, this, of course, is the A2A Simulations Constellation, an aircraft designed and built by Lockheed Martin. And it's a mixed bag with this thing, I found. I really love the airplane. Some of you who saw my last video might think that maybe I don't. No, I really do love this aircraft. It pisses me off sometimes, too. But I'm really hoping things are going to go smoother on this flight. There's a lot of learning to do. I had a lot of great suggestions for dealing with the vertical speed issues. Some were suggestions, some were people who apparently just automatically know more than everybody else. And they were less suggestions and more, I don't know what the word is, maybe corrections. I don't know. Some people are just kind of rude, in my opinion. It's like, wow, let me tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay, you know what? You're probably right. Maybe I'm doing things wrong, but I don't know. Anyway, nobody in particular that I'm talking about in this particular instance. I wasn't really bothered by any of the comments or anything like that. I did want to sort of address a couple of them. There was a comment, one in particular, and I'm not popping them up or anything on this just because I'm too lazy to do all that right now. But there was a particular comment said, control your vertical speed with the throttles rather than with the elevator, which you're not wrong. I mean, typically, to a certain extent, you do that. However, whether or not it's a realistic representation of the flight model, I couldn't say, but the efficiency of the wing on this aircraft, which it was a very efficient aircraft, I just don't know how accurate the flight model is. But anyway, the efficiency of the wing on this aircraft is such that even with the throttles all the way back sometimes, she just doesn't want to come down. And then you start doing this dance where it's throttles way back and then you got to bring them way up, and you're still doing the exact same thing, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the right way to do it in the real world is not simply pull the throttles back. Okay, it's the same as you do with trim. You don't just trim an aircraft. Okay, you use the yoke to set it where you want it, and then you trim it to relieve the pressure on the yoke. That's the way you do it in the real world, and it's not really any different with the engines. You set your speed where you want it based on your trim, and then and once that's done, then you use the power in the engines to adjust your rate of vertical speed. Now, that being said, it's not that I wasn't trying to do that. I'm just not used to it with this airplane and these four really big engines and the amount of power that they put out, along with the efficiency of this aircraft in flight. What that means is, even set and everything going right, I'm still going to struggle with this thing a little bit. So you're not entirely wrong. Using the throttle is correct, but you also do need to use the yoke a little bit. You need to use the trim and so on. And I'm just really hoping overall that I have less struggle with the vertical profile on this aircraft today than I did last time, because that was really quite the adventure. But enough said about that. We've had an opportunity to look at our flight there. What do you say we start getting things fired up here now? I did get another suggestion. Let me put that back over there for a second. Let's hop inside our aircraft here. It's funny how all of a sudden those airplanes are really loud out there, right? That's really, I wonder if it'll quiet down if I close the windows. Close. Seriously, close. Close! Am I going the wrong way? Maybe I'm going the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. The window goes up here. I'm going the wrong way. Let's see if that quiets it down any. No, see, it doesn't. That's ridiculous, right? Why are those so loud? And they weren't that loud when we were outside of this aircraft. Anyway, whatever. It's stupid friggin' FSX AI. Okay, so somebody brought up last time, let's hop back here, I got that thing turned way down slow. I'll have to fix that in a little bit. Was cabin temperature, right? So, oh, good. They're finally shut their engines down. So, And so that's all pressure. Come on, boy, I turned that sucker way down, didn't I? Cabin temperature here is obviously really cold right now, and they were telling me, well, you never turn the cabin temperature up. That's why there was some complaints, blah, blah, blah. Yes and no. It's not that I never turned it up. It's that I left it to the flight engineer to do, which I will most likely do on this one as well. So just something to keep in charge. I'm looking at supercharger as I'm speaking. See, talking about two things, thinking about three. See how that works? Anyway, I left it to the flight engineer, and so that's my intent this time as well. But before I actually start loading passengers, I may start an engine this time. Because it's a little chilly out, obviously, right? And so we don't want to listen to all the belly aching. That being said, grabbing our payload and fuel manager here, major mistake on my own part. I went through all this stuff, and apparently I just completely overlooked something very simple, which was the power settings chart, which does give you fuel burn rates. It's a little crude, but it does give you fuel burn rates. How I didn't notice that before is beyond me, and I made a big to-do about the fact that I didn't have fuel burn information on this aircraft. Well, that's incorrect. There is fuel burn information. So your power settings charts all the way back on page 138 of the manual is going to have some fuel burn rates for you. And for us now to do these, you need to do little calculations. You need to calculate your density altitude, something that I have shown you guys how to do before, and I am not going to be showing you how to do right now. But ultimately, once you have your density altitude or an estimate nearby, then you can use that along with your RPM settings to give you an hourly fuel consumption in both pounds or gallons, whatever your preference is. And it'll also tell you how fast you should be going and all that good stuff. Now keep in mind that this is going to be set or based off of a single power setting. So, okay. So that being said, we're looking at, it's saying we're going to burn 1,900, what is it, pounds or gallons? It's saying we're going to burn 1,900 pounds or 317 gallons. Well, I can do fuel directly myself. If I go to light fuel there, that's going to put me at 1,640 gallons, which is way more than what we need, right? What did we say again? 300 and... No. See, I can't read. Yeah, 317 gallons. Or 1,900 pounds. 317 gallons. So I would say let's get rid of the wing fuel here. We don't need that. Let's just get rid of that. And so what that leaves us with is 820 gallons, which is still way more than enough fuel than what we actually need, right? More than enough. So let's just roll with that. Now, it just occurred to me though, and I probably need to look for this. Does the fuel system work? Is it direct to each engine? I don't think it is. They should have cross feeds, right? Yeah, they should have cross feeds. So we're gonna give it a go, and if for some reason we can't start number engine 1 and 4, then we're gonna notice because there's no fuel in there, and then we'll have to redo this, right? So live and learn. Now I'm also gonna put just a little bit extra in here, and that's gonna be. There we go. Excuse me. That's going to be for running engine 3, which we're about to do right now, so that we can get the aircraft warmed up before we bring packs on board. So let's jump right into that really quick. What we need to do is we need the flight engineer to do his job back there. That's what I want him to do, okay? And this has been the big debate. My biggest debate point on this whole thing is... if you look here, this is our on-entering flight station or pre-flight checklist, however you want to word it. You see there's a few things for the pilot to do here, co-pilot, and then there's this whole list of things for the flight engineer. When we click on FE station under live engineer, that's flight engineer station, that means I'm giving him control of everything back there, and everything you see on that on-entering flight station checklist, he's going to take care of all of it, okay? which leads to the impression that on every checklist we have, the flight engineer will do everything that is required of the flight engineer because we gave him the power to do so. That is not the case. This is the only checklist where he does everything on the checklist. Once that's done, that's really it. He does do a great job of managing systems and stuff like that, and he'll give you advisements and information, but he doesn't actually really do anything other than his monitoring role. He does nothing else on checklists after that. That's been the big point of debate. So
Yes, sir.
just understand that as I just gave him power right now, you're going to hear him talking to himself back there. You're going to hear him flipping switches and all that good stuff. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to get everything set to go. So he's got the master switch on, warning light switch, test, generator switches, upper and lower cowl flap switches, oil cooler switches. On down we go, and you could run out of breath trying to get it all figured out. So let's take a look at our crew reports while he's getting set up so that we can get that engine started. Preparing for boarding, no passengers on board yet. That reminds me, I think it's number 9. There she is, the little My Career thing that you can see the last flight is in there. Now, I'm wondering what's going to happen with this because, how do I put this? When I do the shots for the cinematic, it's a replay. In fact, I'll just show you right here because I haven't started yet. Get out of my way. So I record with FS Recorder, right? So this thing's running in the background. I have no idea why he says yes sir every time I turn that on. So now it's recording in the background. When I play it back later, I can fast forward and rewind and all that stuff so that I can get all the lovely shots that I want. But when I do that, it has an effect on the aircraft, and here's why. A2A Simulations, PMDG, Aerosoft, all of these aircraft, all these companies, Majestic, that build a really good quality aircraft with a proper flight dynamics engine and all that good stuff. The engine, the flight dynamics and all that stuff is all external to FSX. I don't know how they do it, but it's external to FSX. So what happens when I play on FS Recorder is the aircraft has an absolute freak out. Like, it has no idea what's going on. How is it that we're just, we're going from, being on the ground to suddenly we're at, 10,000 feet? What the heck, right? So, like, when I... What did he say? Anyway. So, like, on the last one where I got my cinematic views, one of the engines caught on fire. You don't see it because I got to work that stuff out, but one of the engines caught on fire during the playback, the video playback. This wasn't me flying the aircraft. It was a recording from the actual flight, and all of a sudden an engine caught on fire. So it's really weird. So I don't know how that's going to play out with this My Career thing, but we'll see. So enough about that. Now, last thing I'm going to say here, and then we're going to go into this, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. Somebody said something to the effect of, don't rant so much. Yeah, never ever going to happen. That's what I do. This is my forum, people. I'm going to rant. So sorry you feel that way, but I'm going to carry on with this. Now, crew reports. This is our current time and flight distance traveled. Of course, those are 0. Systems to watch right now, it's saying the cabin is cold. Engines have passed inspection, and then it gives us our power settings for takeoff, climb, cruise, right? Now, there's more information we got here. Let's see. This guy right here, navigator's map. I'm going to undock that and put it down over here because that thing comes extremely handy. And then radios. This one's handy. You don't have to use this one, but it is nice. It's a little quicker than using these guys right here. And then this guy right here, the last thing I want to show you. We've seen this before, the maintenance information. I overhauled all the engines. Why? Not because they really needed it, but because one of the engines caught on fire while I was doing the playback. So I did an overhaul on those. So there's that. Okay, enough talk about that. Let's get engine number 3 fired up because we want to start loading packs, right? So, the starting engines procedure. And what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to pause for just a second because as you can see, if I want to move around in here, it's like crazy slow. I set that for something else and I need to change it real quick, and there's no reason for you guys to have to watch that. So I'll be back in just a second, and we're going to start engine number 3 and get moving on here. Yeah, so for some ridiculous reason, like, jets just keep showing up and making a ridiculous amount of noise, so I got rid of all AI traffic for now. Well, let's take care of starting engine number 3 here. Now, engine number 3 is the first one we start. I imagine there's more to it than simply that's the process. Probably has something to do with systems as well, but ultimately the manual says we start 3 first, so that's where we're going to start, so that we can get some heat going into the aircraft and get it warmed up for the passengers. Now, you guys may or may not remember how this whole process goes, but we're not going to make a big long deal out of it. We're going to crack the throttles. We want them about 10%. That's 7%. Let's bring them all up just a skosh more. There we go, 10%. That's going to help get us started anyway. The flight engineer has pretty much done everything to prep the aircraft for a start. So we want to go up here and flip the master switch to on, and then of course it's going to be number 3. And okay, so we're going to leave the mixture as is for the moment. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn on the inertia starter. So flip that guy up, number 3. You'll hear it spinning up here in just a second. You can hear it spinning up out there. So it's 15 to 20 seconds that we need to let that bad boy run, and really what that just amounts to is Captain Mac running his mouth for a little bit. Now, I found that if you prime it for about 5 seconds, that seems to be the most efficient, and it's the last 5 seconds. So this is what I've been doing. So about the last 5 seconds before I actually engage the starter is where I prime it, and then I engage the starter. So what we want to do is we'll prime it here. There we go, and then we're going to engage the starter, and when we get 3 blades, when it turns 3 full rotations,
turning 3,
which that's about all it takes right there, we go ahead and we put that to both. Come on, baby. There she goes. Turn the primer off.
Oil pressure is rising.
As soon as he tells me that, that's just what I use as my cue. Then I go ahead and I bring the mixture all the way to auto rich, and now I'm looking here at my RPMs, right? And we're supposed to be at about 1,000 RPMs. We're just a tiny bit over, and I keep messing this up. I keep putting it at like 1,100. I don't know why. It's just, for me, I keep looking at the big hand and ignoring the little one there, but that's 1,045 right there. So, you know, I mean, that's close. We're pretty much all right as far as that's concerned, but we don't really want to be high over 1,000 RPMs until we get some heat into the oil, and that's this temperature up here we're actually looking for. Now, whether or not the flight engineer is going to actually do this, I don't know. So we're just going to make sure, zip down here. Yeah, you can see the thing's working a little faster right now, right? And he's got the heater on. So we're warming up the cabin now. Right here you can see cabin temperatures coming up. The warning that we had on our little clipboard here for cabin temperature is gone, and that means let's bring this guy over here and let's start looking at our load for our aircraft. We're going to go with a heavy load, so let's listen to what we hear in return, because the flight attendant's going to do some talking, and so is the ground guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? We are about to start boarding the aircraft. Please report to the gate.
So you hear that kind of echoes and stuff, so it's like an announcement on a PA outside the aircraft, which is really kind of cool. And so now we've got real-time loading going on, right? So right now you can see things are starting to load a little at a time. Center of gravity will change as we go along, and then once we're all loaded up, we'll get the announcement from the flight attendant and so on. And so now we won't get complaints from our passengers, which is an important part of making sure that we're doing a good job as a captain, right? That's what we want to be doing. Now, our first location here, because we're not going to do the come on, brain function. We're not going to the next checklist yet. We're not going to go to the engine and accessories ground test, which comes after you start all the engines, because we don't have all the engines running. But well, let's go ahead and let's set up for our first VOR, which is 115.10 at 082 degrees. So if we hop down here, 115 point what did I say? 10. Wrong way. So 115.10, and then we're gonna fly. It's just mirrors that thing sound really rough. That's alright. Let's close these windows back up. You can do it this way, and there's also a little, you can just click the button on here, right? So Windows, and that one closed mine on this side as well. Very, very easy to do it that way. And then let's get the windshield heater on so they don't fog up again. Turn on our no smoking, fasten seatbelt signs for the passengers back there. We don't need windshield wipers. We're just doing little things to get stuff together here. See how our engine's looking. She's running just fine, warming up nicely, so we're doing good there. And we've got our VOR set. Now let's set our Omni bearing selector here, 082 degrees. So scroll that up, and these two are connected. So if you look over here, this one and this one, they move together, right? Okay, so that's why I do this one, because this one's hidden behind the yoke. I don't know if there's a way to hide the yoke or not. There probably is, and I just overlooked it when I went through the manual. Alright, so 082 degrees, let's get that up here. There we go. And let's see, where are we at on the loading? Still waiting for them to finish loading up. Passengers still loading, supplies still loading, cargo still loading. It's going to take a few more minutes here. Yeah, you know what, there's really nothing else for us to do at the moment except wait for everybody to finish loading on the aircraft. I'm not going to make you sit here and wait for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pause the video here for a minute. We'll let the loading finish, and we'll come back on. We'll start the other engines, and we'll get this show on the road here.
Ground crew to captain. You are all loaded up. Cargo door is shut.
Sweet. Looks like we got all the packs loaded up too. Yep, there we go. I don't know what she said because I was busy talking, but anyway, you can see here now. As soon as she opened her mouth, this thing said 44 passengers are on board, which is our max number of passengers. So now we're all set to go, which means we can go ahead and fire up the other engines and start taxiing this thing out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has put the fasten seatbelt sign up, so please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelt until the sign is turned off.
Alright, so, you know what I forgot to do? I forget to do this all the time. Track IR, hold on a second. Alright, I got my little hat on here. Let's go ahead and fire it up. It's this guy right here. So you have to like not move, hold perfectly still, right? Okay, so you know, I didn't think about it until just now, but we didn't really go through the on-entering flight station checklist. And so real quick, we're supposed to make sure these control booster levers are on, that the this guy here, the elevator booster's on, which by the way, lesson learned last time, don't turn that off when you're trying to land the aircraft. Autopilot engaging levers are off. That's these guys right here. Forward is the off position, and then set the altimeters. And I'm just going to hit the Bravo key because I'm just not in the mood for zooming in and trying to get that all perfect right now. And then everything else has been done to this point. There's really nothing else for us to do. Starting the engines is what we need to do here. For some reason I was thinking we were about to taxi out. My wife came in the middle of me doing that last little bit there, and so I paused it, and then I got sidetracked. Okay, so let's finish starting the engines here because we haven't done that. So we got engine number 3 running. Same process for all the for all the other engines. So it goes 3, 4, 2, 1. So engine number 4, let's get the inertia starter going on that. Again, 15 to 20 seconds minimum. It's up to you if you want to count in your head or not. It's enough time for me to usually run my mouth for a short spell, and then it should be good to go, right? So for about the last 5 seconds we want to prime. So let's go ahead and prime it. All right, and then we're going to engage it. We want it to spin 3 blades.
Turning 4.
That should be 3 already. Then we go ahead and bring the magnetos to both. Come on, baby. Wow. I don't understand why that didn't start. I mean, really, like, there's no reason that one shouldn't have started, right? According to the guy from A2A who was giving me the skinny in the comments section, you know, that should have been a start. Like, there's no reason that shouldn't have started right there, but it didn't. Now, that's all right. It is what it is. Something I've learned, though, once you've done that and you go to try it again, and we left the inertia. I don't know what you call it. I'm calling it the inertia starter. Maybe it's called something else. But anyway, I left the inertia starter on and turned the primer off. And I'm not going to turn the primer on this next attempt to start it because I'm worried I might flood it. So let's engage it again. We'll leave the magnetos on. Okay, I'm a little slow, but I haven't completely lost my marbles. I didn't think about it until I paused the video, because when I'm doing the video I don't think about everything apparently. Remember, we had put fuel just in these two tanks. There was none in the outboard tanks. There's no fuel in there. So I think that the fuel is direct to the engines here. So let's find out now. I kind of feel silly, but I've got the inertia starter going already. The magnetos, I just left them in the on position. Let's prime it. Give it about 5 seconds. I bet this sucker's going to fire right up now. Watch. Alright, let's engage. There she goes. She fired right up. So, let me, okay, let's get that in there. And then let's watch our RPMs. Let's get them around 1,000 RPM, and then I'll bump my gums about it for a second here. Oh, live and learn. Okay, she's coming up nicely, so that'll warm her up. So, clearly, you have to have fuel in each tank. So each engine appears to be drawing fuel directly from the tank that come on, brain function. The tank that's next to it, right? So this is the fuel tank for engine 4 and so on. So even though we only need 300 something gallons technically for the flight, basically light fuel is for all our short flights. We're going to go with light fuel from now on, and that'll give us more than enough fuel for the entire flight. Let's start the other two engines, because this is already taken forever. So it goes, what do we say? It goes 3, 4, 2, 1. So engine number 2 is next. Let's get the inertia going here. Click and drag. There she is, starting to spin up. You can look out your window if you want to see it spinning up, and you would have to have the window open to do it. And then you would do this to look for 3 blades, right? But of course, for us, that takes time. And if we do that, then, you know, it spins a lot more than 3 blades by the time we look out there and all that good stuff. I should probably create a view, just a quick view to glance over there. But she's spun long enough now. Let's go ahead and prime it. About 5 seconds, give or take just a little bit. And then we'll engage the starter here. 3 blades doesn't take long at all. Bring the magnetos in. Come on, don't give me hassles, baby. There she goes. Take the primer off.
Power pressure okay.
Bring in the fuel to auto rich. Keep an eye on the RPMs, right around 1,000. I'm not going to play with them to make it perfection. We're pretty darn close, and now she's warming up, and that's going to take us all the way to engine number 1, the last one. Inertia coming in. I feel like an idiot. I really do. I completely forgot that we wanted to find out whether or not you had to have fuel in the tanks, and I just didn't think about it until I paused the video there. And sure enough, fuel in the tank in order to get it to run. Makes sense too, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not a big old. There's a cross feed. Maybe, you know, that's probably what it is. Fuel cross feed, right? So what we probably should have done, and somebody was probably screaming this as soon as I said it, is we probably should have done the cross feed from 2 and 3, I guess, right? Because that's where we had the fuel 2 and 3. So we probably should have done the cross feed on those. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that, because I'm not sure how you do that, right? Let's get back here, because we've had that spinning long enough. Let's go ahead and prime it. So I'm not sure which way you actually set up the cross feed, so I'm gonna have to look into that, so that next time we should be able to do that. We'll try that out. Let's engage. Here on 1. There, she fired right up.
Power pressure is okay.
Here we go.
Generator is on.
Good afternoon, everyone, from the flight deck. We'll be on our way shortly. Looks like we have some nice weather ahead of us. Our stewardesses are on board to serve you and make your flight enjoyable. So buckle up and enjoy the flight.
Alright, so there is a cross-feed system. Obviously, it's down there. I just showed it to you. It's these guys right here. But I'm not actually sure how the cross-feed system works. I need to actually look into that and see if that's in the manual, because it just didn't occur to me. Plain and simple, it didn't occur to me. So cross-feed system needs to be looked into. We need to use that in order to... my brain doesn't want to function. We need to use the crossfeed so that we can have less fuel in the aircraft, rather than just setting the fuel to a light fuel load. Let's figure out how the crossfeed works. That's one of those things that normally, however, In the real world, the flight engineer would have done that, right? He would have known that we only have fuel in the two internal tanks, or the two inboard tanks, and therefore would have set up the crossfeed when starting the engines. But he doesn't do that. So anyway, there you have it. Engines are finally up and running. So let me get rid of this page here. There we go. And then we got the engine accessories and ground tests. So first thing we want to do, and hold on, Captain Mac cough for you. Your suction gauge needs to be at least 4 inches of mercury. We're at 5.2, and they'll all say 5.2. So 5.2 there, it'll say 5.2 there, and then there's one hidden back here. Where's it at? It's down here, I think. Yep, there we go, 5.2. Okay, so we got 5.2. It's got to be a minimum of 4. It doesn't move. It'll stay at 5.2 the whole time. In the real aircraft, of course, it would move based on the engine RPMs and all that stuff. And the engines are looking good right now. We're just barely over 1,000 on each of them. They're idling nicely. Our temperatures are coming up. We want them all to be in the green. That's what we're looking for. Cabin temperature is, again, controlled back here. And cabin temperature is looking really nice there. We're not getting any complaints. We don't have any warnings other than engine 3 is at 141 degrees Celsius, and that's probably because we've had it running the longest. Now, on this checklist here, the superchargers, we can't change them because we gave, this is one of those weird things. So here's your superchargers. They're on low. You're supposed to put them to high and do some stuff, but because we gave control of the station to the flight engineer, he won't let us move them. Okay, and one of my subscribers put a comment in there, and he said, hey, if you don't give control to the flight engineer, you can left click these and you can go through the whole thing. This is, again, this goes back to my frustration, and I'll probably voice this 150 times because I really kind of felt like A2A was giving me crap about what I was saying. You know, but then you go into the forums and all of a sudden it's like, well, no, he doesn't do any of that stuff. Okay, so here's the deal. If he's not going to do everything on this checklist for the flight engineer, then why can I not move the blowers to high so that I can do everything on here? He doesn't let me. You see what I'm getting at? I still love the aircraft. It's just confusing. Let's put it that way. It's confusing. But anyway, so what we are going to do, let's make sure our parking brake is on here. And we zoom over here to do that. I need to adjust that thing some more. I had to adjust it for another video I'm working on. Parking brake is on, so we're going to go on that. And we need to... I need to look at my list here. So, we're not doing the superchargers to low holding propeller governor switches, the 1100 RPMs. We're going to increase to 2200 RPMs. Alright, but not exceed 30 inches HG. Alright, and what that means is we're going to increase to 2200 but not exceed 30 on here, right? Or that's RPMs, duh. 30 on here. And then we're going to do the magnetos check. So we can at least do that. So let's increase the throttles to 2200 on the RPMs. Love watching that nose come down. That's really cool. A little higher. There we go. Right around there. 2200 on the RPMs. And then we do the magnetos check. And the way it works is you come up here, you switch the magnetos one at a time. So starting with engine 4, we'll take it from both to just left. We observe the RPM and the manifold pressure drop, and that the engine stays smooth. Then we go back to both and then down to right, and it should do the same. You know, it should be close to the same. And then we do that for all the engines. So left, back to both, right, back to both, left, back to both, right, back to both, and so on. You always go back to both. That's the way I was taught to do it. Okay, let's bring the engines back down to 1,000 RPMs here. Way down, way down. Give them a second. They're a little slow to spin down, right? So you do the same thing in a little Cessna. A little Cessna uses magnetos. You do the same exact thing that I just did right there. Bring that down just a skosh more. Come on, guys. My throttles are a little fickle. You do the same thing in a little Cessna. Okay, but it says that you only have one engine, so you only have to do it one time, right? And you do it with the key actually, and it says it. So there we go. That takes care of that, and then that's going to be it. So that takes care of the engine check. Normally the flight engineer would do that, but of course he's not doing it in this case. And that finally takes us up to the taxi, and I know it always seems to take a long time to get everything going, but we got it going now. The taxi checklist here, not really a checklist so much as just here to kind of explain to you how to taxi the aircraft by using differential braking and asymmetrical thrust on the engines, right? And it works, but with no fuel in the aircraft, it's a little hard to do, right? So we're going to taxi out here. Once we start taxiing, we'll take a look at our taxi brief. I've decided to go ahead and stick that in there. Pretty straightforward as far as the taxi is concerned. Today our wind is 310 at 11 knots, and I think that's about it. So track IR coming on, little jump here. There it is. And let's take the brake off. Let's hope that my rudders are working. Ah, they are good. Okay, good. I've had issues where the rudders don't work after, you know what I just noticed? The aircraft is like sitting at an angle all of a sudden. Like it moved while we were doing that, right? It might have. Okay, let's bring the throttles up just a little bit. Let's get her moving forward here. We're not heavy, so it shouldn't take much. She's starting to roll there. Now I have been tending to use the nose wheel to help steer. It just seems a little easier and it feels a little more natural. And you could use it, but they recommend that you don't. So the thing is, the brakes work on this thing like a champ, and asymmetric thrust can be a little sensitive. But we're going up over here, and so I'm going to taxi her up and around. And let's go ahead and let's take care of our taxi briefing. There's no departure briefing. We're not departing via a SID, so no departure briefing. But we are going to have a taxi briefing, and I'm just kind of bumbling on. I do apologize. You can see she's picking up speed really quick now. Once you get her going, she goes. I mean, it's a little crazy. Okay, I'm going to shut up now, sort of. You're going to get your taxi brief here, and then I will see you again when we're getting ready to set up to take off. Love the sound of those brakes, by the way. Okay, we're going to be taking runway 1 left for our departure. The winds are 310 at 11 knots, so a little bit of a crosswind going on there. We're actually up here by runway 19 right. Now, a couple of things. The area that we're parked at doesn't show up on this ground chart. Kind of weird if you ask me, but it doesn't. Also, there are 2 taxiways which parallel this runway, but the ground chart only shows 1. So we're going to start on the outer being the furthest from the runway taxiway, but eventually we'll work our way over here to uniform taxiway, and then we'll take uniform all the way down to uniform 7, and that's where we'll hold short for runway 1 left. Our ATIS is going to be on 134.850. Tower is, for us, going to be 134.425, and ground is on 121.90. Pretty straightforward as far as the taxi is concerned, so let's try not to crash the airplane. Alright, we managed to make it down here, holding short of the runway now. I did realize that I missed a couple of things on previous checklists. I went through those real quick, like cycling the flaps and stuff like that. So we're good to go on that. What we want to look at now is our takeoff checklist. And it's sort of a more like, I don't even know what the right word is for it. It's not really a checklist so much as what you're going to be doing while you're taking off. And there's really 2 different lists here. So, it says refer to the takeoff, climb, and landing chart on page XXX for takeoff distance. We don't have that. Co-pilot, make sure that the surface control boosters are on. He's already done that. Automatic pilot engaging levers are off, which is these guys here, which they are. We'll engage those sometime after we're airborne. Door warning light off. That's this little guy way over here, almost hidden by the yoke. It is off, so we're good to go on that. Let's see, the elevator tab control lever is not modeled in the aircraft. Elevator tab set to 5 degrees nose up. Now, somebody did mention a comment about the trim as far as what constitutes what on the trim. So you have a percentage here. He says it's not that, but you're looking for the number here, which I think I understood that pretty well. And you can see that's 3 degrees, but it's 5 on here, right? And that's the point he was making in the comment, is that the number that lines up with the little diamond here, or arrow, is different than what you get with your little cockpit tooltip. So don't use the cockpit tooltip, but rather use what you have on your next to your trim wheel here. So that's what we're going with. Wing flaps need to be up. We don't need them for this takeoff. Definitely not for this takeoff. I haven't set this yet. Let's set this guy real quick. I almost always forget to set the transponder. And you know what? I do that in the real world too. And you know, it's 1200 in the real world because I'm typically flying VFR. But actually, we want it just on. I always forget to put it to on with altitude reporting, and the tower always calls me and says, make sure your transponder's on. That's after I take off. So that's something I forget in the real world too, unless I'm now if I was flying IFR, I'd be talking to ATC, and they'd tell me what frequency to put in and stuff. I probably wouldn't forget. But anyway, generator switches on for the engineer, carburetor heat, superchargers, all that good stuff. Most of this stuff he actually does do. So we're good to go on that, because this is systems monitoring now, right? Hop back up here. We want to make sure that the windows are closed. Closed over there, closed over here, and then I wrote in here lights and VOR, right? So we've done the VOR, but we'll go to it here in a second anyway. But landing lights, let's get those on. Nose light can come on, and strobe light can come on, and then so we're going to be flying only at 7,000 feet, so that's going to stay on the whole time, so that's fine with me. And then setting your VOR. So we've set the frequency in here. All right, and you can see 115.10, and that is our frequency for the BAL VOR. And then we're going to hit 082 on come on, brain does not want to function. That's the heading we're going to be flying into that VOR. Radial, that's the word I was looking for. And then I've gone ahead and set the autopilot function here to 82 degrees, even though we're going to have to actually spin it more to the right, because when we take off, we're going to be left of the course. But I set it to 82 just to get us started, and then we can make adjustments as necessary. And then the rest of this is all literally just how you actually take off in the aircraft. And so the biggest thing for us is really keeping the aircraft straight down the runway. That's what I seem to struggle with the most on this. But if you look at this guy right here, bam, you can see that it tells us for takeoff we want to be 46 inches on the manifold pressure. Now it's cold out, so it should be able to go past 46 inches, so we need to watch that closely, otherwise we'll overstress the engines. And then 2800 RPM, so that's what we're looking for on these. And then once we've established ourselves in the climb, we'll roll that back to 32 on the manifold pressure, 2300 RPMs, and so on. And then it's still auto rich. We don't mess with this. The auto rich and auto lean is going to be taken care of by the flight engineer, so he does do that, so we'll be good to go on there. So the way we're going to do this, we'll get rolling out on the runway here, and I'll explain as we go. Track IR coming on, little jump here. There it is. Let's get the brakes off. There we go. Bring in a little power, start rolling her forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it up to 30 on the manifold pressure, holding the brakes. That's what this checklist is telling us here. So hold airplane with brakes and advanced throttles to 30 or 40 HG. We don't need to do 40 because we got plenty of runway to work with, right? So you would do 40 if you need some extra runway. That's really what it boils down to, okay? So let me concentrate on using the brakes here to swing her around. So we're going to roll her down the runway just a little bit to make sure we get that nose wheel nice and straight. We're going to advance to 30 on the manifold pressure. See, those brakes work. You need some extra throttle. Bring her around here. And then we'll release brakes, and then we'll advance to, what did we say it was? I'm going to have to look here now. I think it was 46, right? Yeah, 46. Not beyond 46, though. So we can be just a little below, and we can live with that. But we don't want to be beyond 46. So I'm just trying to straighten the wheel out here a little bit. There we go. All right, looking pretty good. Let's bring her to a stop. Nice and gentle with the brakes. Let's bring her up. We'll hold the brakes all the way down. Bring her up to 30 on the manifold pressure. Okay, I love the way that nose wheel, that strut compresses. Okay, now my throttles love to be uneven. That's one of the issues I have. Now we'll release brakes, do Do our best to keep her centered here, using the brakes to start with until we get a little speed. Bring her up to 46. And we can start. See, she wants to go way to the left here now. See, I struggle with this. A little more. There we go.
80. 100. Rotate.
Okay, there's our rotate. Pull back on the yoke. Up, up, and away. Watch that rate of climb. Positive rate. Gear coming up. Want to try and keep her around 1,000 feet per minute. Little glitch there for some reason. Little pause. So I'm just trimming nose down a little bit, just so I don't climb too fast. We're very light, so she's going to climb really easily. Alright. And I'm going to turn off this payload and fuel manager, because you can't use it when you're airborne anyway. See what I mean though? She likes to climb. And that's fine. Okay. Climbing straight out here, looking pretty good. Just getting her established. Okay. A little bit of trim here and there. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's start rolling our throttles back here. So we want to be at 32 on the manifold pressure. So roll those back, and that's going to help bring that nose down a bit too. There we go. Okay, now we just watch it. Take it easy for a minute, and then we want to go to 2300 on the RPMs. That's this little switch down here. Okay, and I can move away from it because I held the mouse down before I moved it, right? Okay, there's 2300, give or take a little on the RPMs. And now let's go ahead and start making our right turn so that we can intercept our VOR here. And you can see that it's off to our right. That's what this is telling us here, and we expected that. We haven't put on autopilot yet. We're still hand flying the aircraft. Flight engineer's doing his thing back there. She loves the climb as she turns. It's kind of weird. Most aircraft now, see, she's starting to come nose down a little bit now, so you got to watch her close. And we're gonna go a little past 082 to start with. And we're going to let the autopilot do its thing here shortly so that we can take care of our climb checklist and all of that. So I'm going to start rolling it out nice and easy here. Okay, very, very difficult to maintain vertical speed on this aircraft. It really is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and engage the autopilot now. Let's go ahead and level her out. You want her nice and level, and you don't want to be messing with the controls when you engage the autopilot, right? Okay, so to do that, we just click all three of these, technically 4 of these down. Okay, now watch, look, she wants to do a little nosedive here for a second. Okay, so it's turning to 082 degrees. Okay, and then we want to trim her up a little bit. Let me get the track higher coming off here, a little jump. And there it is. Okay, so now she's starting to establish herself a little bit. Let's go ahead and take care of what we need to here. So right now we're flying at 082 degrees, but we're left of our course, right? And we've got some crosswind too, which is actually blowing us in that direction, believe it or not. So if we look on here, this actually tells us our navigator is actually tracking the winds and stuff for us, right? So our magnetic heading is 82 degrees, but our ground track is 90 degrees. Okay, and so what you end up with is we're sliding over to the right here a little bit. We still need to turn more to the right to intercept, but that's the basics. That freezes up when I do that for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so let's get her to the right just a little bit more here. Okay, Mel. And I'm using the mouse wheel to scroll it. So there's 090 on the magnetic heading. We're moving over to intercept our VOR. That's what we want to do. Let's take a look at our climb checklist. We want a direct flight engineer to take over the engines. Well, he's not going to do it. We're going to have to take over the engines, or control the engines ourselves, not take over, because we're already doing it. We're going to be climbing up to 7,000, so we got about 2,500 feet to go. Trim for best climbing airspeed. So we actually want to climb a little bit slower as far as our airspeed, and a little bit higher on our vertical speed, right? So just bring in a little nose up trim, a little at a time. We want to climb at about 1,000 feet per minute, and that should put us, give or take, about 160 knots. And that's what we're looking for. So I'm just trimming the nose up a little bit. Co-pilot's going to move the elevator and rudder boost emergency control switches to off. I don't know why he does that. actually, elevator and rudder booster emergency control switches to off. I don't
Ladies
think.
and gentlemen, hello
Let
from the
him
flight
talk.
deck again. We're currently climbing to our cruise altitude. Upon reaching this altitude, we'll dial a nice, smooth, quiet cruise for everyone.
Okay, so this is the elevator booster here, and this is the rudder and aileron boost up here, but they're not the emergency control switches as far as I know. So I think I'm still missing something there, and I think either it's not modeled in the aircraft, or I just don't know what I'm talking about. It's probably the latter, but flight engineer's not really gonna. He's gonna do some of this, not all of it. So he's not gonna reduce power for climb. But he is going to take care of the mixture. He's going to watch cylinder head temperatures and all that stuff. He is going to monitor systems and make necessary adjustments as we go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the gist of it until we get up to our descent phase, which means, you guessed it, it's time for some of that obligatory elevator music.
Oil pressure is rising. Oil pressure okay. Oil pressure is okay.
All right, we're going to be starting our descent here shortly, and as soon as we're done, as soon as we actually get into the descent, we're going to go ahead and roll right into an approach briefing. Hopefully we won't have to fly the ILS all the way thing, you know, after the last couple of fiascos. But anyway, you can see we're still trying to catch on to this VOR over here. Winds are just kind of messing with us a little bit. We'll probably end up overshooting it because I'll be running my mouth, but it is what it is. We're cruising along right around 7,000 feet, and we'll need to start our descent shortly. So to start the descent, you want to set the altimeter to the reading of the field. I'm just going to hit the Bravo key. That's going to put us to the reading where we're at right now, and I'll try to remember to hit it again as we get closer. We want to make sure that VOR2 is programmed for our ILS frequency 108.950. You'll see that in a few minutes. That's this one over here, and you can see that it is programmed, and I just used the little pop-up thing because that works like a champ. So, and we're coming in on that VOR here pretty quick, so I kind of don't want to miss that. But basically, the cabin is pressurized, even though it doesn't need to be at 7,000 feet, but we're good to descend at whatever rate we want. and then we can adjust the automatic pilot for descent or disengage it, however we want to do it. Basically what we're going to do here as we start to roll to the right, let's see, this thing's off by about 6 degrees, so if we want to be at 068, we need to be at 062 on here. And you can see again, it always tries to climb, or it doesn't try, it always climbs as you roll into a turn. That's not that big of a deal. What we're going to do is we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, and we're just going to roll these throttles back and let the aircraft start to descend on its own. So we've trimmed it for a set speed, so what should happen is as that speed starts to bleed off, the aircraft should start to descend in order to try and maintain that speed. Because remember, you trim for speed, not for altitude, right? So you can see we're starting to descend now, a couple hundred feet per minute. And as that speed continues to slow, it's going to try and come back up on its own. And in order to do that, the aircraft is going to have to descend a little bit faster. That's basically what's going on here. We're a lot closer to the airport than you may think. This is the VOR we're about to cross over here. Which one is it again? It's oh come on, DQO. I was going to say GQO, but it's DQO. We're over the top of it right now. That's why it's going all bonkers. That's fine. Now we do want to turn to 066 degrees from here, which is almost the same heading we were already on. So what I really want to do is continue this descent so that we can get out of the clouds here. Let's roll that power back a little bit more, and we're going to have to roll back the RPMs as well. But what I want to do is get out of the clouds here so we can actually see something. So let's bring the RPMs down as well. Let's get this aircraft descending just a little bit faster. Come on down.
Set.
There we go. Okay, so we're looking good there. That should get us down a little bit quicker. It's okay that the aircraft's slowing down. Remember, if the aircraft is slowed down, then we cover less ground as we descend. So we're good. We're working out just fine. All right. Enough talk about that. That's the basics of the descent. It's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and take care of the approach briefing while we have a little bit of time here. And that way, excuse me one second. I knew that was going to happen too. I need to check the time on this thing so that I record enough time, and everything is in my way. Oh my goodness. It's like a 4-minute brief because I talk too much, right? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and break away here. Let's go ahead and get some space recorded here so that you can see this approach briefing. Alright, we're going to be taking the ILS 27 right approach today. Now, the ceiling is at 3,000 feet, and this approach is set up to come in at 3,000 feet. So we're actually going to go down to 2,000 feet and hope for a visual approach just so that we don't have all the hassles that we had with our last ILS. But it is what it is. And we'll get it figured out as we go along. But either way, our ILS frequency is on 108.9 or 5. We need to put that in the nav2 radio in order for the ILS to pick it up. Not really sure if that's a glitch or what, but there you have it. Now we're going to be coming generally, let's see, we're headed pretty much this way, like kind of at an angle here, 060 degrees. As we roll in. In fact, it's going to be 066 degrees as we roll in. So that's going to basically put us on a downwind. And what I'm going to try for is to get to about 2,000 feet before we actually get to the airfield, and that way we can do a visual downwind. We'll swing out here, probably not all the way out to where Martin is at. Of course, we don't have that fix anyway because we're not using GPS. Swing it around to intercept the ILS out here and then on in from there. Let's take a look at the profile view really quick. As I said, it shows it at 3,000 feet. We're going to try for 2,000 feet. And I'm sure that these restrictions have to do with the Class Bravo airspace, which would have been much different during the time anyway. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but as we look here on the chart, we can see that 2,600 feet is the minimum safe altitude in this grid here. And there's really little in the way of obstacles except for some towers and stuff like that. So we're going to try it around 2,000, maybe even 2,500 feet just to keep it closer to 3,000, but it's going to be about trying to have a visual look at the airfield. But once we start our descent, standard 3-degree glide slope, happy lights on the left-hand side, plenty of runway to work with, 2,702 meters. If we have to fly a missed approach, we climb on our final approach fix of 266 degrees, and then at MNM, we're supposed to be at 1,500 feet, make a right-hand turn. Boy, my throat's locking up here. and then intercept the 115 degree radial for MXE to MXE and climb to 3,000 feet. What does that look like? Well, basically we're climbing straight out here until it says MNM. We need to be at 1500. I don't know what MNM is. Oh, minimum. Duh. I'm losing my mind. You know, that shouldn't be in caps like that, right? In my opinion. But I guess because they bold these, that's where you're supposed to get the difference. At a minimum of 1,500 feet, we make a right turn to intercept the 115 degree radial for MXE. So basically, what we're gonna do if we have to fly missed approach is we're gonna climb out, regardless of what our altitude is. We're gonna try and intercept that 115 degree radial from MXE. My brain does not want to function. And then head out there, which will be 295 degrees, and then we would head out to MXE, and then we would hold there. So that's basically the gist of it. So we want to get the Medina or MXE VOR programmed into the nav1 once the time comes, and then that way we're set up for our missed approach. Wow, I really just kind of butchered this thing, but it is what it is. So ATIS is 113.40, tower on 118.5, and ground on 121.9, and I can't even talk right now, so here we go. Let's see how I can fly. Alright, that takes care of the approach briefing. Let's take a look at the approach checklist really quick. We don't need to contact the tower. It's already, we're not doing ATC on this one, so we're good to go on that. We don't have too much fuel in the outside tanks, so we're good on that as well. Excuse me. Man, we'll be disengaging autopilot here in just a minute. And then airspeed, get it below 146 so you can extend the landing gear, and then flaps and so on. And that pretty much sums it up. And then you have a landing checklist as well. Co-pilot's supposed to call out airspeeds, he doesn't, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here is we're going to fly this bad boy in. You may have noticed while that briefing was going that that I changed to VOR2. That's our ILS right there. That's why that's swinging around. There's we're actually just past the airfield. So if you look, that's the airfield right there. We're landing on 27 right, which is over there. So what I'm going to do, track IR coming on here. Forgot to tell you a little jump, right? Of course, I think you already know that there's going to be a little jump every time I do that. So you can see the ILS, it is picking it up. We're coming up to 3,500 feet here. I'm going to leave this autopilot on just a little bit longer, not too much though. And we're going to try and kind of hand fly this in. We've got good visibility, which is what I was really hoping for. And so what I want to do is, as we get ready to swing up around the corner here shortly, I'm going to get everything sort of ordered up and ready to go, right? So let's get the RPMs up where they need to be. Come on up, baby. And we're going to have to bring the throttles up too. So we won't bring them all the way up quite yet. Let's bring the throttles back up a bit. I haven't adjusted the trim at all, so we're good to go on that. And yeah, let's get her set and leveled off here. So let's get up to 30 on the manifold. There we go. And then it was 2,200. Of course, it's going to start hitting some clouds now. We're going to leave the RPMs where they're at. I think they're good to go. I'm going to let it continue to descend a little bit though, because I don't want to be stuck in these clouds. I want to be below the clouds, right? So yeah. Actually, let's go ahead and let's pull those throttles back just a little bit for now. Bring them back down about 2,000. We're probably going to have to bring the RPMs back a little bit as well, which can be a bit of a pain. There we go. It can be a bit of a pain when you're using track IR, right? But it's even more of a pain when you're trying to do a bunch of stuff. Okay, I think I'm kind of mumbling a little quiet here. My apologies for that. I don't mean to be doing that. Okay, so as we start to swing around here, what did we say our final approach fix was? I didn't even write it down. I guess we're just going to have to suck it up. Coming up on 3,000 feet, so we should pretty much be below these clouds now. Let's go ahead and start our left-hand turn. Of course, there she is trying to climb. She always does that. And I'm going to pop this thing up because we're looking for 266 degrees. So, come on, brain function. Should be, I'm just looking for 90 degrees off. Should be right there. So you see now she's climbing like a banshee, which I really hate that. But there's not much I can do about it at the moment. Now she's starting to descend. I want to be below the clouds, but of course she tried to climb as we made the turn. She didn't try, she climbed. So it's back to descending now. Let's roll those throttles back a little further. What I want her to do is I want her to descend, and then I'm watching this guy right here because that's my localizer, right? So I'm going to swing it around because I can't see anything right now. I'm going to have to keep that autopilot on. It shows us being on glide slope right now, which is good. In fact, I don't care if we go below glide slope a little bit because it's going to climb when we make the next turn to 266 degrees, right? So, good times. The winds are pretty strong. Cough coming here. Excuse me. The winds are quite strong, as a matter of fact. And so we're going to roll her a little more to the left here just to help compensate for those winds. Still want her to descend. I don't want it to climb. So you see, it's kind of weird the way the weather works. It's like we were out of the clouds and now we're in the clouds again. So we need to get below 3,000 feet is what we really need to do. And once we get below 3,000 feet, that should put us where we can actually have a visual approach on the runway. So I'm okay with it still continuing to descend, even though glide slope starts at 3,000 feet. I understand that, but I'm trying to see where I'm going and fly a bit of a visual approach here. So we're coming up on 3,000 feet right now. We're obviously below glide slope. That's okay. I know that the airport elevation is at 36 feet, so we're good there. And you can see that thing's moving now, so we need to turn like right now, right? And so now she's going to climb again, and we're going to overshoot it. I get that. So 266, so we're going to go down to 250 will be fine for now. We're going to overshoot it quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And of course we still can't see anything. We're below the glide slope. A little bit of climb there. I need her to come down. Let's bring it over a little bit further. It does not turn very fast, does it? Oh, I just don't want to be fighting with it. I really don't want to be fighting with it this time. She still doesn't want to descend. Come on, come down, baby. Come on. Oh, I don't want to do a go around here. Come on, drop out of the clouds already. Okay, now we're above the glide slope a little bit. We're obviously off to the right, but we've made a correction for that already. Speed's still a little high to try and bring the gear down. So I'm trying to get speed down while descending, which is never an easy task. That's what makes spoilers so fantastic. There we go, dropping out of the clouds. Thank the good Lord. Where's our runway? There it is. We're over here. Okay, so this is our runway right here. So let's get the autopilot off. Come on. All of those off. Okay, we have control of the aircraft now. So as I start my porpoising here, let's get those RPMs up. There we go. Let's roll the throttles back a little more. We're in position for gear. Let's get the gear down. That's going to help slow us down substantially.
Gear down.
Bring in that first setting of flaps. There we go.
Fuel boosters on.
Boy, she's trying to kind of pull to the side there. All right. That rate of descent is definitely a little high.
Prepare for landing.
Okay, bringing in a little power now. Also trimming, lots of trimming here. Trying to get that trim set, trying to get that rate of descent where I want it. We have a very, very strong crosswind here, just so you know. So that's why she's fighting to get over there. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be quite the landing here, isn't it? It's going to be quite the landing indeed. We're still just a little under glide slope. We're trying to work our way over. You see it's quite a strong crosswind here. But we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be okay on this. I think we got the trim pretty well set. And I think we're looking pretty good. We're going to land with the flap setting that we have. And I've got the trim set. Sorry, I had to scratch my nose. I've got the trim set pretty good, so I should be able to use the throttles now to adjust my rate of descent, right? That's the idea. And you can see that is a very, very strong crosswind. Right now our crosswind is, I'm trying to look over here without looking too far. Let's see, observed wind, right crosswind of 14 knots. Oops, see, I was too busy looking over there. And we're a little high now. Come on down, baby. There we go. So you can see he's starting to drop a little. So now that we've got the trim set pretty good, we're able to use our throttles to help control the descent a little bit. So definitely much better. Of course, it's easier to do when you have a visual on the runway. That just makes sense. We're still too high. Big surprise there. Captain Max high on approach, right? Cough coming up. Sorry, couldn't cover my mouth or move the microphone away because I'm busy. Okay, so now, of course, part of the struggle is this crosswind. And you can see it's a serious crosswind. We're pretty much on glide slope now. Whew, that's quite the crosswind there. I'm trying to make small corrections. Trying to get us lined up here. You can hear the flight engineer messing with switches back there constantly, doing cowl flaps and all that stuff. So, good times. He's probably getting annoyed with me. We're a little high here. Looking pretty good though. Not too bad. Not too bad. Little drift. Little drift. The wind is gusting too, which makes it a little more difficult.
400 feet.
All right, let's listen to our call-outs and see if I can land it without crashing and without scaring passengers.
300 feet. 200 feet. 100 feet. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Oop, pulled a little hard, way too hard. Come on, easy now.
Setting cow flaps.
Woo.
Outstanding landing, Captain.
Well, they liked it. I pulled way too hard, but I've had worse. Well, I got almost full left rudder in here trying to keep her straight. up to the next one. Ooh, she does not want to stay straight on that runway. That wasn't too bad, all things considered, I think. I think we did pretty good there. Let's get her slowed down. Come on. Ooh, that nose strut really compresses, doesn't it? Alright. Let's get her pulled in over here.
Hello from the flight deck again. We're now taxiing back to the terminal. Please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened until the aircraft comes to a complete stop. On behalf of the entire crew, thank you for being with us, and we hope you had a pleasant flight.
It's really hard to look down there and control where you're going. Alright. Boy, those brakes make some noise, don't they? I like it though. I like the sound of them. I really do. Alright, so that was definitely much better than last time. No doubt about that. Still a little rough. I definitely, boy, I barely touched that yoke. But man, when I pulled on that yoke, she took off. It was... I'll be interested to see how that landing looks on the cinematic, because that was quite the little program there. But in the end, I think the landing turned out all right. We're going to go down here just a little bit further, and you can see even just taxiing along, she's really trying to pull to the right here, and that's just because there's such a strong crosswind right now, and that it's got that huge vertical stabilizer back there, which there's 3 of them, right? So boy, when that wind hits it, it really wants to move it. So that was quite interesting, but I enjoyed it. Slow down, baby. Slow down. Ooh, that was way too fast. Look how fast we're going. That's all right. We're just pulling out here into the middle anyway. We're trying to kind of keep it a little bit old school, right? Where you know, we're not going up to gates and stuff like that, right? So let's just go ahead and pull her up right here. Just let her slow down gradually. We don't want to slam on the brakes. Passengers are already probably getting sick back there. Nice and easy. Track IR coming off, a little jump here. There we go. Bring her to a stop. Let's get the parking brake on. We'll just use, let's just go down here. You got to move to do it. There we go. Parking brake's coming on. Let's go ahead and get those engines back to 1,000 RPM real quick. Give or take just a little. We don't want them too high, but we don't want them idling too low either. We don't want to foul the plugs, right? Come on. There we go. Come back down a little bit. Okay, so looking pretty good there. Let's go ahead and let's look at our... Oh, I gotta switch to the right checklist here. It tells... Hey, there's a checklist for crosswind landing. I'll have to try to remember. If I've got that, I'll try to remember to pop that up there for you. Okay. Stopping the engine's checklist here. Move brake lever to emergency and check for 1,700 pounds of pressure. That's this guy down here. And then the pressure is going to be this guy right here. So we got to wait for that to get to 1,700 pounds of pressure. That's the co-pilot who's supposed to do that, by the way. And then when engines stop turning, move individual and master ignition switches to off. So what we're going to need to do here, I guess we'll cut the engines. Let's let this get up. It's supposed to get up to 1,700 pounds. It takes a minute to get there, so I'm surprised the way they have you do that, because it's not like it spools, like the pressure comes up really fast, right? But anyway, let's let that finish up here. Just about done. You know what? I'm gonna say close enough. Let's go ahead and let's kill the engines now. There we go.
Shutting down systems.
Alright, so the flight engineer starts shutting everything down automatically. What I'm going to do, grab this guy here, and let's open the doors. So main door, cargo door, and then let's pop this guy back up. And we have an unload feature. So let's unload the aircraft.
Captain, you're
Unload. Why'd he do that? Sounds like passengers are unloading now, but...
Ground crew to Captain. Doors are opened. We are just going to start unloading.
Okay, so, little note. Excuse me. Don't open the doors. Let them do it. Click unload. Let them open the doors. And then you can see here passengers are starting to unload. Supplies are starting to be taken off and so on. So we'll let them keep doing that. And let's take a look at our, before leaving the pilot's compartment, or we'll call it the securing the aircraft checklist, either or. Leave control booster levers on to act as a gust lock. That's these guys here, that one and this one. We leave those on, they act as a gust lock. All radio equipment needs to be off. That's the radio guy. He's supposed to do that, but let's go ahead and make sure the transponder's off. There we go. And then set parking brake or have wheels chalked. Moor the airplane if weather conditions make it advisable. And I don't see... Now, we do need to turn off lights, too, though. It doesn't have that on there. So let's get the... Whoop, that's on. Off. Off. You know, we never actually turned the seatbelt signs off. We should have done that. Turn the pitot heat off. We need to turn all of these off. All the magnetos. I'm just rolling the mouse wheel. Master ignition goes to off. You know, I realized what else I forgot, again, is I forgot to do the fire extinguishers when we started the engines. I forget that every time. Let's open the windows here just so it doesn't fog up. That's kind of a picky little click spot there, isn't it? There we go. Let's open this one, maybe. There we go. We can hear the noise outside. We can hear passengers offloading. And we are done, sir, done. Now, one really cool addition to this would be if they had actual passengers coming off the aircraft. That'd be really cool. I'm sure there's a way they could do that, but I don't know. It's probably costs more money. It's more of everything. So that's probably not going to happen. But that'd be really neat to actually see passengers offloading right now. See them in their 50s garb and all that good stuff. That'd be pretty neat, right? But anyway, the aircraft is unloading right now. There's nothing left for us to do. We've got everything secured. We would shut off the battery and avionics and all that stuff as we depart the aircraft. The flight engineer technically is supposed to do that, but we would end up doing it because I don't think he does that. But that's going to wrap it up for this flight, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch it. I hope you're enjoying this series. I know that I voiced some concerns or some complaints about the aircraft, and I know in the last video I was really getting worked up because, boy, what a pain. And you could see, like, when we were about to touch down, I barely pulled that yoke, and that sucker just floated. It went crazy, right? So you can see that it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little fickle as far as that vertical speed goes, but I think I'm starting to get a little more of the hang of it, which is fantastic. It's still a difficult aircraft to fly, but that's to be expected for a big old beast like this. But it's a beautiful plane and I love it. So if you haven't had the opportunity yet, please smash the subscribe button. We're up to 3,300 subscribers. My goodness, can't believe it. Thank you all, every one of you. I truly appreciate it. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up down below. Makes it easier to find in the search. Looks like they're done offloading now. So give it a thumbs up down below. You can like us on Facebook. That's where all the live stream announcements take place. We did skip the live stream this week. I did spent some time with the family, which was a lot of fun, by the way. And we'll be back to it next Sunday, however. So look for the announcement on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, and of course you can follow us on Twitch for those live streams at Captain Mac 3588. That's it. That's all. No more, folks. Thank you once again for joining me. I hope that you all have a fantastic day. Well, almost forgot. Don't forget, keep the blue side or the gray side up unless otherwise instructed by ATC. Have a fantastic day. God bless every one of you, and I'll see you on the next flight.